Okay, so we sewed that down. Now we're going to fold it over to the top. This is the top of your quilt. Press that down. You can finger press, but it's better to do it with the iron. Then you're not going to get the puckers. And make sure you don't catch your batting underneath when you're sewing. So check underneath of your quilt and make sure that you are free to go. Now you're going to add the next sashing, 1/4 of an inch, right down the left side. And here we go again. We are going down, pinning down the sashing and sewing, smoothing it out. And you're quilting as you go because you're sewing and quilting. And that's it. So to make that a little bit clearer, what I'm going to do is line these up. These are my blocks, and I'm going to put a quilter's needle, or quilter's pin rather, in there, and try to keep that lined up with that. Another thing that can happen if you don't press really well is this can kind of twist on you, which kind of did that to me. Kind of bent a little bit. It's my fault. I was trying to work under pressure. I had toddlers under my feet. I was trying to film, get a certain portion of this done, and it was a little bit noisy in the house, and those are my excuses. So I should have just put it away, which I ended up doing. And just this morning with my puppy over here, I had to wait until he took his nap, which he's doing right now, in order for me to work on this, because he likes to bite on my feet and just be a puppy. So I'm going to sew that down. So I am auditioning my fabrics. That just means I'm trying to decide what to do. I want to add this border over here to the left, but then I also love that blue, and I don't have enough of all these. I've only got this row. I'm going to sew this, come down here, sew this to that, and then this top will be done. And then I had to like beef it up. So in order to facilitate that, I have to sew these together. So I think so here we go with the border, with just like before, always right sides together. So this is the 5-inch charm pack. Well, it's not really called a charm pack. I'm not sure what it's called. Can't remember. But it's the 5-inch pre-cut squares. I'm just sewing them together. I'm going to do 2 at a time. I added that piece that is on the top. Let's see now. This is going to go like this, and then this will go like this, so I got to do right down the sides on the right hand side of each block. And then I'll cut them apart just like before. Okay. So it's really important to press. And when I was working on this part of it, there were a few rows that I didn't press because I was pressed by this little guy and other people in the house. And so I just sat down and just kept sewing. And what happens is you end up getting little puckers. So it's not going to ruin my quilt for me, but if you're a perfectionist, it would ruin it for you. Another thing that I noticed when I was quilting is a good way to keep these lined up is when you're putting down the strip, like when you go back to the beginning, you'll see what I mean. When you're laying down your strip, this strip right here, remember you have your backing underneath that is tacked down with me. I tacked it down with basting, quilting basting, which I love because it's really holding up for me tugging everything around. So you have your batting, your backing, and then your quilt top that you're making as you go with your rows. So in order to keep these kind of lined up, what I did was, see, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to sew this last row, and then I look at the row before me and I kind of estimate where that one is, and then I pin it down. And these squares, they're pre-cut. They're not always perfect, so you have to watch out for that. But see, because now I can see right here when I go to pin this one and this one and this one, they're gonna pretty much line up, and I'm gonna have to go press this again because this fell on the floor because it just did. So I'm gonna press that and then zip across there, zip this across here, and then I'm going to take my sides and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to zip down here, and I'm going to do that on this side as well. You can see it's pressed, and I'm going to sew down here, and then my top is going to be ready for the border. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and meet you right back here. So before I put my sides on, I'm going to get rid of some of this extra batting. I made it way over big. So I'm not going to measure it out yet. I'm just going to give a good, generous border. And then after I'm done sewing my pieces on, then we'll get it to where it needs to be. But for now, it's about 10, 12 inches or so. So that way I can have plenty of space to move around with. And one thing I'm going to check before I put my border on, because I changed plans, is to make sure that I do have enough to put my border in my all the way over to the other side. My border in my binding. So I'm going to take my piece, and remember I'm going to lose a 1/2 inch because it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to test it out. And I see here that I shortchanged myself. So I might have to do some finagling over here. I could always add a border, which would make it a little more work for me. And I could have centered it all over there because I have all this extra, but I miscalculated. Well, it's because I added this. I changed things up, that's why. It's still going to work out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and pin this down both sides, and when that's done, we'll take the next step. So pin this down and then sew it. So quilting, you cut pieces of material up and you sew them back together again, right? As I decided to make this border, I created a little bit of a problem for myself because had I thought ahead of time, I'd have seen that these blocks, these 5-inch blocks that are already pre-cut, are going to come up short on this quilt because of the length of it. But I didn't measure, I just sewed them together. So now I'm going to fix that problem. This is going to have just a little piece of the block down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this border and I'm going to fold this material, finger press it right here. That's where I'm going to, because I want this to look like this. I want this to come out over here. I'm going to take my seam ripper three. Okay. Well, I'm just about finished with this. I think I'm gonna have to do a second video because this one's gonna be too long, but I do have a helper, so I'm gonna probably have to wait until I can do it by myself because somebody's putting a lot of pins in here. Well, what are we doing with all of these pins? I think the pins go in the pin cushion.
No.
No. Well, okay. So this is the quilt that I am making. Yup. And I had some helpers. You were one of my helpers, right? Your brother was my helper.
Where?
Last night?
Lucas.
Yeah, he was hanging around helping, right? Yep. And let's see. I think we had Princess Anne and we had Zebulon B. He was helping too, right? So this is the quilt that we came up with. This is a quilt as you go quilt. Yep. See, it's quilted on the back. You can't really see it, but it is quilted on the back.
And we can't see this part.
And it's quilted on the front. And I'm going to put that video together.
Yep. And I'm gonna put the pins on.
And somebody's helping me put pins where I don't really need them, right? Let me see your gorgeous nails. Over here. Oh, they are gorgeous. Those are beautiful little 3-year-old fingernails. Oh,
They're purple.
Oh, aren't just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Beautiful. Okay, so we are just about done with this quilt. We're going to cut it and we're going to make a binding. Yep. And then we are going to upload that on YouTube and get lots and lots of followers. And likes.
I'm the following.
You're going to follow her? You're going to be the leader? Oh, good.
I'm going to be the follower and the leader.
Oh, good. Then I should get lots of views for this. And we are going to do a giveaway.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to do a table runner. And we're going to do a giveaway.
Yep.
Let's show the colors that we're going to do that in.